中国勢の台頭、それから新興勢力含めてですね、だいぶその自動車の構図が今変わりつつあると。
Welcome back to Car Guys. I'm John. This is Adam. And welcome back to 2025. We are
25.
Here.
Oh,
new
my
year, God. New me. New you.
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. It's maybe it's the new me. We'll see.
Yeah,
so
yeah, man. So we'll start with, we got some big news in the automotive industry.
Big news. So I'm sure everybody's seen it, right? But Nissan has been struggling for a while, which is, I mean, it's not surprising. You know, John, you and I talked about this, a couple episodes ago. The only car that I'm interested in from Nissan is the GTR, and they're doing away with it.
Well, the new Z is kind of neat, like in an Nismo form, but
true.
Yeah,
the new
got
Z
blown away by their competition.
Neat, but do you feel like it's watered down?
Well, it's a 370Z with twin turbos. That's what I see.
Yeah.
You know, I don't see anything different about it, but it's also double the price of a 370Z, and you can buy that car ran from what 2009 to 2020.
Yeah.
My God, what a run of a car, dude.
Yeah.
These struggles have been going for a long time. There is no doubt about it. I mean, the GTR platform, same. 2000. No. Yeah, the Nissan Z came out in 08.
Right.
The GTR came out in 09. And both of those cars have ran consecutively. And they're the only two cars that we're interested in, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, easily else. The only two cars we're interested in. Now, I will say, so when the Nissan Armada came out, I was not a fan. I test drove one. In fact, I rented one when it first came out, and there was like no in between. It's either stop or go in that car, right? Yeah. And it's about the size of a school bus. So if it's going, you know, it's basically just plowing down the highway.
Yeah.
The thing about the Nissan Armada was it was too big for anything that I needed it for, right? And then it was also just, I mean, if I was going to be that big a platform, I wanted a truck, you know, like a pickup truck, right?
But what about the Nissan
recently, Titan? I'm not a Titan fan, but I will tell you, they recently revamped the Nissan Armada, and I don't think there's enough being talked about it. I mean, it's really cool on the inside. The outside looks modern, updated, and rugged. It's a very cool vehicle. But I don't think anyone's really talking about it right now, which is very interesting. But the Nissan Titan, I was never a fan of the Titan because it never felt like they got the balance of that truck right. Because even though I really liked it when it first came out and it was a really cool looking truck in the beginning, you'd go around a corner and slide the rear end of that truck. It just never felt like it was weighted properly. And then everything inside that truck felt cheap.
Plastic.
Everything felt plasticky and cheap. And, you know, I'm sorry for Nissan fans, but I've never been a fan of the amber backlighting.
Right. You know, not bad. When I had my first sports car was a 350Z. So, you know, for me, I was like a Nissan fanboy. I'll admit it. And, you know, I always thought the Infiniti, like being a cool platform off of Nissan, kind of made some cool cars all the way up to the G37. And then it just fell apart.
I remember there was a time when I thought like the G37 was like, you know, I actually knew a friend of mine that had one and he showed up in it and I was like, man, how did he get that car? That car is so cool.
That thing's sweet, man.
Yeah.
Like the G37 and then the what came after that with the twin turbos. And I thought, man, that's going to be the Z variant in the future. And then it took them another 5-6 years before they put it actually together. And then by that point, the Supra's out. I would pick the Toyota Supra over that car in a heartbeat.
I would definitely pick the Toyota Supra over that car. And you know, I really like the Supra platform. I like it for the nostalgia of it, but the new one, I just like the platform. I do like the fact that it's got some underpinnings of BMW, right? Which is I really enjoyed
which
my
is a
BMW.
Great platform.
It is.
It's a great platform, dude. That inline six is going to go down in history as the new twin Chassis, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's going to happen. And it's in that car, any of the 340s, some of the 5 Series. Like it's in so many cars now that it's like it's a common motor that does really well performance wise. And Nissan has motor.
I don't know if that motor and somebody's going to catch me on this and be like, "Oh, you don't know." But I don't know if that motor is what they're using in the Ineos, but the Ineos uses a BMW motor.
Oh, it is. It's the B58. That's the platform. That's the motor. Yeah.
Okay.
The B58's and the Ineos. Actually, Ineos. Short side story. Ineos contacted us about tuning that car.
Oh, did they
and
really?
being specifically tuning it for them, and we actually talked for a bit. So
unfortunately, that's a car that needs to be
happen.
tuning because it is like 200 horsepower the way it's set up today.
Yeah.
But I mean, back to Nissan, right? So you've got the Nissan Frontier, you've got the Ultimate's been around forever, you've got the Sentra, you've got the Z cars, and then you've got the Titan, and then you've got the Armada, right? And it's just like it's been a while since Nissan's had anything that's come out that we as a car community have been excited about. We were excited about the Z, and I think when they originally released the Z, it wasn't as exciting as we all hoped it was going to be.
Everybody
the new
hated the
Nismo
look.
Z has been better, right? Well, a lot of people hated the look. In fact, most people didn't like the way the front end was, that it was too pointy, right?
What it looked like to me was a nutcracker.
Yeah.
When you look at it, I thought, oh, that's a nutcracker.
Yeah.
That's bad. The back looked good, but the front not so much.
It's funny because when I first saw it, I liked it. And then a bunch of people started pointing out stuff, and I just couldn't stop focusing on the stuff they were pointing out, But I mean, I've always been a GTR fan. In fact, I was just up at Savoy, which if you guys haven't seen it, we did another video on Savoy recently, or earlier in 2024. But they had a import display today, and they had all sorts of cars. Everything was right-hand drive, which was super cool.
Nice.
But of course, when you walk in there, they have an R34 GTR in that chameleon paint job.
The way it should be.
Oh, I love that car. I love that car so much.
Very cool.
But with that being said, I mean, that no one's really excited about their trucks, right? That Ford and Ram, and it continually outsells them, right? And I see more Tundras than I do Titans, right? I mean, they were in the marketplace for a while by themselves with Tacoma, and just didn't eat up enough of the market share. And then Chevy and Ford stepped back in the marketplace, and I haven't seen anybody driving a Frontier, right? I rented one a while ago, and just wasn't impressed. When you look at how the similarly equipped Ford and Chevy and GMC is, you can't. The thing about Toyota is Toyota has never been cutting edge when it comes to technology, but they've never had to be, because that car will run for 100 years, and it won't have an issue, right?
So I guess my question really comes down to, how did Nissan depart and make this? Where did it go wrong? Right? Because obviously something happened.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, we're kind of getting you caught up a little bit, but essentially Nissan is struggling because in the Asian market, they're having a lot of competition, right? And they're at a point right now where they were actually working on an EV project. They were working with a company that was going to supply them the batteries for it. And that whole deal fell through. So now they're in a position right now where, I mean, you and I were talking last year, and they were talking about potential bankruptcy or being in trouble. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. They were talking like 280 days out, like full on bankruptcy.
It's crazy. And so, I mean, if I was to play, car bingo last year, I never would have thought that Honda would step in and help rescue them from the brink, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Now, I don't know that that's, I mean, I'm a huge Honda fan. I have Honda motorcycles. I've had plenty of Honda cars. I wish the Honda Ridgeline was a better platform, because I'd own one of those. But it's one of those things where Honda's another one of those that hasn't had anything interesting come out of it in quite a while, right? I mean, the last interesting thing that came out of Honda was the Honda Civic Si.
Which I'll say the new Accord looks decent. Like it's not a bad looking car.
It doesn't.
But I think they got
bad.
a lot of that from Audi. And I think their lead designer is Audi.
Right.
People that were in Audi at one point.
So the problem is it doesn't look bad, but again, it's more of a mainstream car. There's nothing that we've, we as automotive journalists have been like, oh my God, this is a car I can't wait to get my hands on. Right.
And I mean, when have you talked about the Leaf, right? I mean, At what point do you talk about the Leaf, or even their other cars like the Sentra that
the Leaf,
just
the
went
Sentra,
like
the Juke.
The Juke, yeah. I mean, and then they had the Nismo Juke for a little bit, right? Like
What
nobody's
would
like
they think? The Nissan Kick. I
Yes.
mean, just
Yeah.
yes.
And
So
it's
there were a
like,
bunch of
you know,
there were a bunch of
bunch of
terrible
duds,
decisions.
you
Yes,
know,
there were a bunch of
duds.
terrible decisions. And in fact, for those of you out there that are Top Gear and Grand Tour fans, Richard Hammond hates the Juke so bad that
Right.
driving down the road, he will literally yell, "I hate you," driving down the road. Right.
Another thing, and just to point out just some big failures from the company, the CVT transmission. And
it's
then
terrible.
when they realized it was horrible, they stuck with it and put it in more stuff. And I just don't understand that thought process.
Yeah, and
from a
I'll
company.
tell you, so I've only driven 2 GTRs, right? And the first time I drove a GTR, it was kind of one of those don't meet your heroes situations, because when I drove it, I was really, 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 really disappointed because of the fact that there was a bunch of issues with the transmission, right?
With that specific car.
With that specific car. So one of the big issues was when you put it into reverse, it was making this, like rattling noise.
Right.
And it was kind of interesting because I talked to some people and they're like, oh yeah, that's common. It's this, it's that, blah, 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 blah. Right. And I'm like, well, that's not good, but I've driven another one and it was newer and it didn't have any issues and everything. But it was one of those things where, it made me nervous to buy an older GTR because I don't want those issues. I don't want to run into that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so you've got the CVT transmission. They start putting it in everything they can.
Yep.
And it turned a lot of people off from the brand.
Yep. That was the other thing. I mean, and you look at like the Maxima, that's a well-known car, like Nissan Maxima.
I've had 2 of them.
Yeah. Back in the day, that was like a cool car to have. Like, we'd fix them up, put systems in them and stuff like that. And it was a great car. And at one point I remember trying to buy a Maxima. I was like, I'm gonna buy a Maxima. It's gonna be my daily. Yeah. But they, you look back and it's like, now that car has that CVT and all those things. And it's just, it doesn't appeal to me. I don't want those problems.
Yeah. So I had a 2000 Nissan Maxima and I thought it was, and honestly, the reason I bought it. So I had gone to Pennsylvania to visit my family. Yeah. And I had rode with my cousin in his like fully loaded Nissan Maxima. And I remember thinking, this guy's got it, right? He's got, he's figured it out, right? It's awesome. Yeah. And so I came back to Atlanta and I was like, I'm gonna trade my car and I'm gonna get a Maxima. Like that's a classy car.
That's a classy car. Yeah.
And I bought it with the intention of doing all kinds of stuff to it, and it just never materialized. Yeah. And then I ended up getting rid of it. I did. I drove it for a little while and I ended up getting rid of it.
But it was probably a great car then.
It was. It was a very reliable car. Never had issues with it. It was one of those cars like I had just come from an import car, and so I was like, oh, it's a Nissan. I'll throw an intake on it. And you threw an intake on it, and it did not like that. It did not like having an intake on it. It would like fall on its face.
Stuck codes.
It was not good. But I mean, so Honda steps in to save Nissan, right?
Yes.
And I'll tell you, what I didn't expect was Mitsubishi was going to be part of that. Yeah. And here's the thing. What happened to Mitsubishi? Because they used to make the Lancer Evo, right? They used to make some really cool cars. Even some of their SUVs were kind of cool.
I saw a spinoff I saw a spinoff the other day of a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Yeah. It was a Laser, the Plymouth Laser.
Oh.
I had never seen one before and saw this. It came by me the other day and I was like, what the heck? Oh,
so I haven't seen the Plymouth Laser. I remember the Eagle Talon. Do you remember that car?
Same thing. Yeah.
Eagle Talon to me, I thought was the better looking Mitsubishi Eclipse.
Right.
And I wanted an Eagle Talon TSI so bad. I thought that was the coolest car. It had the wing on the back. I found one that was white with the black roof and the black wing, and it was manual. And I was like, man, that's a cool car. Right.
I remember when Mitsubishi brought back the Eclipse. You remember they went away for a while, and when they come back, it was garbage.
It was awful.
Absolute
it looked terrible. Trash. But you know what? They tried to make it look cool, and they put it in Too Fast, Too Furious, and they were like, "Oh my god, everybody's gonna love this car!" And it still
Roman's
didn't sell.
car, man,
dude. It still didn't sell.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the biggest problem with that
bad.
car was you were reintroducing it to this tuner community, and it just never hit the mark. But sadly, I mean, I forget Mitsubishi makes cars all the time. And when you and I were on that trip together, we drove by I think it was in Nashville, or maybe it was in Chattanooga.
We drove by standing Mitsubishi dealership.
We drove by a Mitsubishi dealership, and I was like, wait, what?
Did we just go back in time?
When I went to Pennsylvania recently, there was a Mitsubishi dealership in Pennsylvania, a big one right by the side of the road. And I was like, this is crazy. But if you want a barometer to tell you how popular or how successful a car company is, look at the lots during COVID.
Yeah. Oh,
because Ford had like no cars, right? Yep. Some of these other Toyota had no cars. Right? Yep. Some of these other dealerships had no cars. Stellantis dealerships had like 100 Jeeps, a bunch of cars, and Nissan always had cars.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, people are going around talking about how they can't buy any cars right now, and Nissan didn't seem to be hurting.
Just remember, guys, Nissan was there for you.
That's right. That's right. I don't know, man. And so okay. So just to level set, everything that we're talking about, they have made the commitment, or they've made the intent, they've announced the intention to merge, which was pressured on them by the Japanese government. They really kind of told them you had to do this, right?
I think that it was a hand slap to Honda. They were like, look, you're going to merge. Love it or hate it, you're going to merge.
It might have been.
Nissan's like, we'll take that deal.
Yeah, right? Yes, please.
I mean, yes, please.
So it's going to take some time, right? You're going to have to sort through a bunch of, T's and C's, and there's going to be a lot of legal stuff that's going to come up. But assuming that everything works out in 2025, the merger between the three could end up being the largest. They could end up being the largest the third largest auto manufacturer in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
That's wild.
Which is crazy.
Just to think though that right now they're not in the top 5. Right? Didn't we go through the list earlier? They're not even in the top 5.
So I mean, Honda's down at number 8, right?
Yeah.
Nissan's number 9, so they're right next to each other. Mitsubishi's not even on the list. Yeah. I mean, it's Toyota, and then Volkswagen, and then Hyundai, which is kind of interesting, and then Stellantis. So I mean, the fact that they're going to jump Hyundai and Stellantis and end up in the number 3 spot is a pretty big deal. The question becomes, and here's what I'm asking you is, what do you think they're going to do? Because if you're Honda, right, you already have a premium brand. So Honda's more the everyman car, right?
Yep.
They've got something for everybody. They've got a good fit for everybody. It's a dependable, reliable, well-built car. And a lot of the new Hondas are very well equipped, right?
Yeah.
But then your premium brand is Acura. And Acura is that polished Honda, right? So it feels more premium. The materials feel more premium. They've got their own line of vehicles. I mean, it's very much like having, Chevy and GMC and Cadillac, right?
Right.
The thing is, if you ask me, Mitsubishi is not up to the standard of Nissan or Honda, honestly.
Yeah.
It seems like all they're building is what you'd call in Europe city cars. It's small, economical cars with little bicycle tires on them.
Right.
Nothing exciting is coming out of Mitsubishi at the moment. But then you've got Honda, which again, we know where they stand, and then Nissan. And I felt like Nissan and Honda were direct competitors, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
On the same playing field. One didn't feel more premium, but one didn't feel more premium than the other. Right.
Well, they felt like two different classes, because Nissan was always like rear wheel drive sports car. Right. And Honda was always like front wheel drive or all wheel drive variants of something. And it wasn't, I don't feel like they were the same car. You know what I mean? They were just different, completely opposites.
So the question is, do you think they're going to merge, right?
No.
And then maintain their identities? Or do you think that they're going to merge and revamp the brands and basically do a like a mid-tier brand, I guess? I don't know.
I think that they're going to merge and they're going to stay separate. And they're going to take their key things that they're great at and hopefully enhance them. I mean, obviously, that's what any company that merges with another company says they're going to do, right?
Yeah, but I mean, what is that?
Yeah, well, that's going to trim some fat and
It is,
figure
but
it out.
so Honda doesn't have a truck line, right?
Right.
Nissan does.
Correct.
Honda doesn't really have a rear wheel drive sports car line. Nissan does, right? Nissan doesn't really have a JDM, we'll call it tuner, right? Line, which is that front wheel drive,
Yeah.
Like
Honda
the Civic
EX or something like that. Yeah, they don't have
SI
that.
and Type R.
But
I
don't think that we're gonna see I don't think we're gonna see what we would like. Like we'd love to see like a S2000 come back, right? And it come back with like
I would absolutely love to see an S2000. Like I'm telling you right now, I might be too tall to sit in an S2000. But I always loved that car. I thought it was such a cool car.
But I always liked it at the price point it was at. When it comes back, though, you already know just as well as I do, whatever comes back is going to be double what it used to be. It's going to be a $50,000 car starting price. Let's get back to the basics and bring back some cars at some decent prices and undercut the competition. Make it fun for the guys that like to tune cars and fix them up. That's what it's all about.
That's where Toyota was smart, right? Because Toyota and Subaru partnered together and made the BRZ and the FRZ, right? FRS,
and then the Scion version of that. But it may end up in a situation where it's kind of like Mitsubishi's going to be like Scion was, and it was like they came out and they changed some things, and it's supposed to be this kind of wacky version of a Toyota. Maybe that's what they do with Mitsubishi, but eventually we know the end's going to be spin it off and let them make their generators, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I don't know. Well, I guess the future will tell. I mean,
I got to think. And this is just me from my, thinking from I guess like a line item on a balance sheet sort of mindset. Yeah. I got to think Mitsubishi is some sort of way for them to offset losses somewhere else.
We made so many cars and lost so much money on these cars.
It's gotta be because I mean, when was the last time? Now, you and I have seen in probably 2 months, we've seen 2 Mitsubishi dealerships, right?
Right.
When was the last time you've seen a Mitsubishi on the road?
Yeah. What's funny though, is like, when you're not looking for it, I guess until you see it, you see it. Now I'm gonna be looking.
I guess, people are going to jump on here and be like, "Well, I've got
a Mitsubishi. It's been excellent." Well, thank you.
Well,
put it in the comments. Send a picture.
But it's funny because if you buy a Maserati today, all of a sudden you're like, "Why does everybody in town have a Maserati?"
I didn't know.
You buy a Honda Civic Type R. You're like, "Why has everybody got a Honda Civic Type R?"
Yeah. How did you feel after you bought the Raptor? How did you feel after you bought the Raptor?
Yeah, everybody's got a Raptor.
Beforehand, though. You were nobody has a Raptor.
No one in America had a Raptor. I was the first one to buy it, and everybody's got it.
Right. Exactly. But that's how it is. I mean, and for some reason, I think everybody thinks that the person that has the same car. Right. Like, hey, man, I saw a car like yours yesterday. Who is that?
Yeah.
And sadly, in my town, I do know that person.
Now, I will tell you, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but somebody told me the other day, they were like, "Oh my God, I saw a car just like your Aston." And I was like, "No, you didn't." And they're like, "No, I did. I really did. I saw a car just like your Aston." And the thing is, for people who are new to the channel, for people who have not been following us, I have, and so does John. We both have very rare Aston Martins, right? Mine was the second one delivered in the United States. It's still one of like 3 in like the Southeast or something,
right?
And I'm the only one in that spec, right?
Yeah, right.
So the thing is, if you see one that's kind of like mine, it's probably me, right? And it was funny because they were like, no, I saw one just like yours the other day. I took a picture of it. I was like, awesome. So they show it to me. It's a white Vantage. And I was like, it's not even the same color. It's, and
it's a cool car.
It is. I get what you're saying, but it was an Aston.
No, I feel that. Yeah.
But no, so I mean, here's the thing. Is there anything from the Honda, Mitsubishi, Nissan line that you are excited about for this coming year?
So I will say, I haven't driven any of the new like Civic SIs. Mm-hmm. I would like to experience it. Maybe I could test drive one and do a review on it or something. I mean,
I think the Civic SI. Well, and I would go with it. I would go with the Type R, by the way. But I think the Civic Type R is probably one of the most underrated vehicles. I know that there's a whole subgroup of people that may or may not be listening to this that are like, oh my God, the fact that you don't know about this. But I've always loved the Civic. I had one in high school, and I still think it's an awesome car. And John Cena, his daily vehicle is a Civic,
Right.
Civic Si or Type R, one of the two.
Yeah, I think it's a great daily. It's a great option. We have AEM as one of our brands for work, so
yeah,
they'll make a bunch of stuff hopefully for the Hondas, and maybe I can have some fun with a Honda. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, a nice thing about having a Honda in general is so many people make stuff for it, and then so many people make knockoff stuff for it, right? So you could literally buy a Honda today and have it completely customized and tricked out. One of the big issues you have with like McLaren, Aston Martin.
Oh yeah, it's the
Mercedes.
Fixing it up, making it fun is not cheap.
No, it's not cheap, and you don't really have a whole lot of options either.
Exactly.
I mean, even when it comes to floor mats, there's really not even any decent floor mats outside of the factory ones from McLaren, right?
Exactly. That's been the biggest problem with like going from the C8s to the Aston is I like to fix my cars up, but this car is, number one, it's rare, so you don't want to do that, and number two, it's like the parts are so freaking expensive. It's like a $200 splitter is what I could have got for the Corvette. On the Aston, that's a $3,000 splitter. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and that's the thing too is it's easier to get to modify and upgrade and do all those things to your car. Right. That's the first part. The accessibility and availability of parts is so much better. Yes. And then to take it a step further, the thing is, we talked about this before, you upgrade, your Aston and you break something along the way and it's like devastating, right? You break you break something on the Honda and you're like, oh, I can fix that.
That's $10. No big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that, with this merger, we get to see a lot more fun cars come out of those brands. I think that
I would love to see that.
That would ultimately be the goal in my mind.
I think that they need something to re-energize the brand. Now, like I said, I've been sleeping on Nissan for a while. If you look at that new Nissan Armada, it's not something I would want just because of the size of it. I have one kid, right? I don't need a 3-row SUV. But I will say it's an awesome, like even the screen in it, it's got a sensor, John. It's got a sensor for the backseat passengers that if my kid gets in from basketball practice and he's overheated, it'll take his temperature and turn on the air conditioner.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty cool.
That's crazy awesome.
But the competition in that space is massive.
It is.
3-row SUVs that's what everybody wants. That's the popular thing, man. And
it is. But
how often are you going to say you're driving along and you're like, oh, there's the Range Rover dealership, there's the Toyota dealership, there's all this, oh, there's the Nissan dealership. How many people are going to turn into Nissan versus the competition?
So I'm hoping it's more now, honestly.
Hopefully.
And after seeing some of the reviews of the new Armada, I'm pretty impressed. I mean, they've seemed to have come a long way, and there's not enough being talked about of them. I think that if you can take one thing away from this podcast is that I think that this merger has kind of brought some of these vehicles to life, or to light anyway, that we had not thought about or looked at in a while. Right. And honestly, it's something that I really want to take a better look at, because there's definitely some good stuff out there, and I, like I said at the beginning, at the top of the show, I have driven a Tundra, or a Titan rather, a Titan back in the day. Right. I haven't driven a Titan in a long time.
No, I haven't driven a Titan since it was like the OG Titan.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like it's been a hot minute. Yeah.
But here's the thing, I was looking for a truck for a while. Yeah. Right. And I looked at the Tremor. I looked at the Ram TRX. I looked at the F-150. I even went and looked at the I think it's called the GMC version. Yeah. Right. I even went and looked at the GMC version, the ATX, I think it's called.
Yeah. The AT4.
AT4, yeah. And I looked at all of those and ended up with the Ford, right?
Right.
You know what never hit my radar?
Nissan.
Now, Toyota didn't hit my radar for a reason. Yeah. Because they were having engine issues at the time I was looking.
Yes.
But Nissan never hit the radar. And it was like, why not? They got that Pro 4X, right? Yeah. That's a nice truck.
Yeah. So, well, we'll have to do an episode where it's overrated, underrated. And just me and you go through them and make our decisions and then compare. I think that'd be fun.
Because the thing is, maybe these are all underrated, and maybe people are missing out on some really great cars.
Absolutely.
But I keep going back to that whole Jaguar, video Jag announcement. Is that nobody was talking about Jag before that came out, right?
Yeah.
Nobody was really talking about Nissan before this came out.
You know what I'll say? Even bad news is good news in the automotive sector.
Except for your boys over at Stellantis.
Well, yeah, no, hey, they've had a rough go, I guess. But,
you know what?
They're going to get it under control. So
they have had a rough go. I will say, John and I have been trying to get our hands on an RHO.
Yes.
I do think it's hilarious because whether they want to admit it or not, Ford and Dodge are in a head-to-head competition. And if Dodge has 14 cup holders, Ford has 15. And if Dodge has 14 inches of travel, Ford has 15.2. So it's kind of funny because because I mean, the Raptors dominated the market for, I mean, since the Gen 1 came out, right? They came out with the TRX, and the TRX was very it was overkill almost, right? Because you were going up against a V6, right? And then you had this TRX that came out, and so it was like everybody was waiting for Ford to respond, and then Ford responded
with the Raptor R.
With the Raptor R. What's crazy about the Raptor R is it's still to this day, John can go out and buy a used TRX and it's like 30 grand off of, but it's like 20, 30 grand off a list, right?
Right.
We can go out and buy a used Raptor R today and it's 20 grand over list.
Yeah.
With
don't
miles
see that
on it. I don't see it either. That's what
it's hard for me.
You and I had that same conversation, right? It's hard for me too. And to be honest, the one thing I don't like and didn't like about the Ram was the vertical screen, right?
Which is something I do like. So,
and the thing was, the only person who'd ever done that prior to that was Tesla, right?
Correct.
And even Tesla got away from it, right? So now Tesla has the big square screen because everybody's more familiar with it, and things like CarPlay and what is it, the Android Auto. Right. They are display better on a horizontal screen, right?
Yeah.
And so the thing was, that was always a turnoff for me. But I have to admit, I did research on the RHO with John, and we looked at some of the stuff that's come up. Now, again, it's ticky-tack stuff, right? So Ford has one wireless charger. RHO has two. Ford has two USB-C outlets. The RHO has three, right? So it was kind of like a back and forth thing.
Just kind of like, we're going to put everything in the list and we're going to go up.
But the thing is, if you haven't looked at that truck, if you haven't looked at the RHO, it's a really, really nice truck. I mean, the inside of it's really nice. The stuff that they've put into it, they've put thoughtful attention in it. Is it worth what they're asking for it? I don't know that any of these trucks are worth what they're asking for it, right? Exactly. I don't think that is a Stellantis problem. I think that's an every truck problem.
Correct.
But with that being said, maybe we should be looking at the Pro 4X.
Yeah.
Right. From a truck standpoint, this is truck conversation, right?
Right.
But I mean, from a vehicle standpoint, right? Why are we not looking more at Honda and more at Nissan? Because even though they don't have anything that I would dedicate or I would call out as being something exciting, right? Like there's not another supercar killer. There's not another Godzilla coming out of Nissan tomorrow.
Man, that's what
they do need one, right? Because it creates hype, right? Yes. And I do like that. But they've got some solid cars. I mean, when was the last time somebody was telling you that that they didn't like their Nissan because it was acting up on
it? I just look back in like 2009 and how excited I was when the 370Z was coming out. Because I had a 350 at the time, and the 370 was coming out, and I knew it was just and all the things, all the reviews were really good, the drivability was really good, and I was like, dude, I've got to get a 370. And it took me until last year to get one. And that was a great car,
you got a 370Z last year.
Yeah,
the same time that the new Eminem album dropped, and you were able to relive your high school days.
I was right back in it, baby, just riding. I'm just saying, like, I just
playing
remember
Houdini in the car, just
and
loving
even
life.
then, though, Honda had just come out with the Genesis, And I remember I was sitting at a bar. I was in my 20s. I was sitting at a bar. The Genesis Coupe. Do you remember it? Like Genesis brand, and it was the
Hyundai
Genesis
Genesis.
Coupe. Hyundai Genesis Coupe. And they showed there was a video, and I thought it was like an Infinity video. And I see this car sideways on a racetrack, just getting it. And I was like, oh my God, that is a massive drift. That must be an Infinity. And I go looking for it, and they're like, and then the Hyundai emblem came up, and I'm like, what?
You know, there was rumors a long time ago they were going to throw a V8 in that car, and it was going to compete against the Corvette. It never happened.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this: I was excited about that car till I got in it, and like the steering wheel was plastic. You know, it was like
the only thing I didn't like about that car, and I really liked that car, but the only thing I didn't like about that car is the glue or whatever it was that they used to assemble the car. If you've gotten a brand new one, it had almost like a very chemically glue smell when you got in it. And it's just, I didn't like it. I went to look at 2 or 3 of them.
BMW crayon. Like everybody that's been in a BMW knows it smells like crayons. They all have that smell. It's a signature smell from the 2000s, from the 99 to the 2000s, baby.
I like crayons, so I'm okay with it.
So do all my Marine Corps friends.
There you go. Well, hey, so let's see what 2025 brings. Let's see how everything shakes out with Honda, Nissan, and with Mitsubishi.
That's right.
I'd be interested to see if maybe one of the brands goes away, if they reshift focus, because the truth of the matter is, if Mitsubishi was a line item, if it was something that they were using, they wouldn't need it anymore once they have, Honda and Nissan, but they'd be able to use Mitsubishi's building facilities to make it work. Right now, I say that, but I'm talking as an American, right? I'm talking as somebody who's in the US. I don't know what Nissan and Honda and more specifically Mitsubishi is doing outside of the US.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
they could be very popular in some other countries.
Right. Exactly.
So I guess we'll see. But for those of you who lasted this long, we appreciate it. We are still on our drive in 2025 to hit 500 subs.
So close.
Our goal is to hit 1,000 in 2025. So
let's go.
Keep tuning in, keep liking, sharing, and subscribing, and hopefully come back for more. We're going to continue to try and drop a new podcast every Monday and shorts throughout the week. So make sure you like our videos and make sure you comment on them, and we'll bring you more stuff.
Hit it below, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you guys.